Good morning, all. Welcome. Please rise in body or in spirit and turn in your gray hymnal to hymn number 347, Gather the Spirit. I'll warn you, it does go on to the second page here. Gather the Spirit, harvest the power. Our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Our truthless light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind. Seeds for the sowing are laid in store. Nurtured in love and conscience refined. With body and spirit reunited once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Thank you. You may be seated.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor. We are a liberal religious congregation that was founded in 1865, and we are still learning, growing, and evolving today. We are grounded in community, centered on justice, and lifted by love. I'm the Reverend Mandy Beal. I am this congregation's acting coordinator of the membership journey. If you are joining us for the first time today, we extend a special welcome to you. Whether you're with us via live stream, or if you're with us via live stream, please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat at this time. If you're here with us in person, I invite you to consider stopping by the newcomer welcome after the service. That happens in the Redmond room, which is the first room to the left after leaving the sanctuary. This is an opportunity to learn more about our congregation and about Unitarian Universalism. Nobody would begrudge you grabbing a donut and some coffee first. Also, we'd love to hear from you either through a paper newcomer information form if you're here in person, or through our online survey at UUAA.org/newcomer survey. I might be a little nervous. I'm gonna just, okay. We have one announcement this morning, and that is a reminder of Reverend Manish's upcoming seminar, which is entitled, Who Do We Choose to Be? This course meets monthly, September through May, and it is dedicated to creating community and reflection around the needs of our time. More information is available on our website. It is most easily found by going to our website and using the search feature to look for Who Do We Choose to Be? We are a busy community with over 70 recognized groups that are always up to something good. Whatever your interests are, it is highly likely that we have programming that will appeal to you. The church calendar on our website is the greatest way to find out what is going on. And now, let us be gathered in community and worship with words from Pat Uraib-Lichty, slightly adapted. We come from many places, along different paths, bringing different truths. We come with our different histories, our different realities, and yet we come together as one people, with faith that we can use our differences to heal ourselves and each other, to bring wholeness to a fractured world. We come seeking to find community, to find acceptance of who we are. In this place, may we find others who are much like us and others who are much different. May we be reminded that we are a people taught by different stories with many voices, but always one people working for a world where love creates justice and justice gives birth to peace.
Good morning. When we gather each week in times of joy, in times of sorrow, in times of relief, and in times of anguish, we create a special something here in the space we share. After journeying throughout the week, engaging in all the work that is before us, we arrive on Sunday a changed person, having experienced all that the week presented. Offering the blessing of our presence, receiving the blessing of your presence, we co-create healing in the warmth of the light of the chalice. We are renewed after our time of worship, embraced and recreated, hopefully unburdened, but if not, at least our load is lightened by sharing it with others. I would now like to invite Kristen and Liara Lesueur to light the chalice with me this morning. Join me this morning as we center ourselves and co-create the wonderment of truth, love, action, and energy as we say these familiar words together. We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you, Kristen and Liara. When we come together every Sunday, we willingly engage in the process of transformation, open to the possibility of change, growth, healing, and spiritual development. We join together our voices and our hearts each Sunday, engaging in familiar rituals that center us and prepare us for the week ahead. One such element is our covenant. We speak these words to remind us of how we are connected, a tether strong enough to withstand all of life's changes, upheavals, and recreations. Whether this is your first time here or the words are stitched onto your heart, please join me in saying the familiar words of our covenant together. The spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another.
As Unitarian Universalists, we celebrate being that covenantal faith, centering our relationships with one another and our interdependence as a community. We just recited our community's covenant, as we do every Sunday. But in my humble opinion, we don't talk enough about ourselves as a living tradition, committed to seeing the world as it is and evolving to meet the pressing needs of the day. In some ways, the very words living tradition seem contradictory. How can we honor our traditions while also growing and changing? I'm reminded of a very funny scene in the movie Bridesmaids, in which Annie, played by Kristen Wiig, and Helen, played by Rose Byrne, passive-aggressively argue about whether people really do, in fact, change. I can hardly do this scene justice, but I'm gonna try. It's funny how people change, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know. Do people really change? I think they do. Yeah, but they still stay who they are, pretty much. I think we change all the time. I think we stay the same, but grow, I guess, a little bit. I think if you're growing, then you're changing. But we're changing from who we are, which we always stay as. Not really. I don't think so. I think so. I don't. And scene. I think they're both right. We change and we stay the same. We honor the past and we look towards the future. We engage in familiar rituals and we explore creative ways to worship. We honor old voices and lift up new ones. We hold on to what continues to feed our spirits and we let go of what no longer serves us well. We seek the space in between, where change and tradition exist together in harmony, where every one of us can be our whole selves. This is what we call beloved community. Our story for all ages this morning celebrates the magic that can happen when we truly lean into what it means to be a living tradition. Mr. Tiger Goes Wild. Words and Pictures by Peter Brown. Now, before we begin, I have an important task for you. And kids, I expect you to show the adults how it's done. There are 2 times in the story when our hero roars very loudly. When I make this gesture, I want you all to roar with your whole beings. But wait for the gesture, because there might be words that come before it on that page. Can we practice once? Are we ready? All right. Excellent. And now our story. Once again, Mr. Tiger Goes Wild, Words and Pictures by Peter Brown. Everyone was perfectly fine with the way things were. Everyone but Mr. Tiger. Mr. Tiger was bored with always being so proper. Good day, Mr. Tiger. Good day, Mr. Deer. Lovely weather we are having. I suppose. Indeed. Now, children, please do not act like wild animals. He wanted to loosen up. He wanted to have fun. He wanted to be wild. And then one day, Mr. Tiger had a very wild idea. He felt better already. Mr. Tiger became wilder and wilder each day. His friends did not know what to think. Peculiar. Wow. Unacceptable. And then Mr. Tiger went a little too far. Why, I never. His friends had lost their patience. Mr. Tiger, if you must act wild, kindly do so in the wilderness. What a magnificent idea. So Mr. Tiger ran away into the wilderness, where he went completely wild. But Mr. Tiger was lonely. He missed his friends. He missed the city. He missed his home. So, Mr. Tiger decided to return. And he found that things were beginning to change. Now, Mr. Tiger felt free to be himself. And so did everybody else. The end. Excellent job with those roars, by the way. And now is the time in our service when we sing to our children as they head out of the sanctuary. I invite all of our young people of all ages to follow me to the Foz Chapel as the congregation sings with love and tenderness.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine.
That was a great story. What fun. There are many ways that we work together to support each other through life's changes. One of the most important things here at UUAA is our ability to provide resources for our community to support itself, including our many, many groups and organizations that use UUAA as their spiritual, emotional, physical, or financial home base. There are many ways to give and support this work through your time, talents, and treasures. If this is your first time here as a guest or future congregant, it is more than okay to let the baskets pass you by. Your presence alone is a gift. Today, we will be gathering funds to continue to support the transformational power of love here at UUAA. You may drop your cash or checks in the basket as they pass you by, or you can contribute online at uuaa.org/giving. You may also contribute by texting UUAA to 73256. I would now like to invite the ushers forward, as today's offering will be graciously gathered and received for use here at UUAA. I would now like to invite the ushers forward and ask you to rise in body or spirit. As we speak these familiar words of dedication, as we receive these gifts gathered here today. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you. You may be seated. As you settle in again to your seats, the familiar words of our rituals echoing in your hearts, I would ask you to move towards a place of stillness and quiet, allowing the cares and concerns you carry to be set into the wind, like clouds drifting across the sky, allowing your body and mind to rest, resplendent and soon to be replenished, separate but never separated from the oneness of all being, resting in the ubiquity of love that spans the globe and expands ever outward into the universe. I will now share with you a reading entitled Communion Circle from a larger volume, Sonata for Voice and Silence by Mark Bellatini. After I conclude the reading, there will be an intentional period of silence, which Allison will then guide us out of with her beautiful music. Communion Circle. The earth, one planet, round, global, so that when you trace its shape with your finger, you end up where you started. It's one, it's whole. And the dotted lines we draw on our maps of this globe are just that, dotted lines. They smear easily. Oceans can be crossed. Even the desert can be crossed. The grain that grows on one side of the border tastes just as good as the grain on the other side. Moreover, bread made from rice is just as nourishing for body and spirit as bread made from corn or spelt or teff or wheat or barley. There is no superior land, no chosen site, no divine destiny falling on any one nation who draws those dotted lines just so. There is only one earth we all share, we, the living, with all else that lives and does not live. Everything, everything, for good or ill, is part of the shared whole. Sky, earth, song, words, and now this silence.
Okay, we're going to start off today with a shocking claim that might startle you. Are you ready? Unitarian Universalism has a history and we have theology. I know. We're going to talk about both today. I'm being a little facetious here, but I do think there are a lot of folks who have the assumption that we just sort of fell from the sky in 1961. That's when the American Unitarian Association merged with the Universalist Church in America to form the Unitarian Universalist Association. And I hate to disabuse people of the belief that we just began at that point, but I must. I want to start today by looking at a really specific piece of UU history and theology, and that is the work of Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. Please do not fall asleep, it will not be long. Now, we all know that I'm still kind of new here, so I'm going to ask a few questions to help me get a feel for where we are as a congregation on our UU history and theology. You should know that when I start, usually there's going to be a joke. I feel like that's 2 weeks in a row that we've kind of missed each other on that. That's okay. But, we have 2 more weeks. But I also, then I was like, oh no, maybe they do know about history and theology. So we're going to find out right now. I don't think anybody is paying attention in this moment, and I want you to know this is not going to go in your permanent record. This is just purely for me. I'm going to ask some questions just so I can know where we are, okay? All right, so who has read something on purpose by Ralph Waldo Emerson and or by Henry David Thoreau? Raise your hand. Okay. Oh, wow, nerds. Okay. All right, good. All right, who has read something by one or both of them in the last 10 years? Okay, all right. Less nerds, all right. And now this is, we're going to get down to some brass tacks. What do we know about their work? I'm going to ask you just to shout it out, and then I'll repeat it so that hopefully everyone will be able to hear it. But what do we know about Thoreau and Emerson as people or about their work? Transcendentalism. Good. Okay, and who can define transcendentalism? Okay, what are we transcending? Okay, all right. What else do we know about Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, or their work? Worship of nature, okay. What else? The Oversoul. We're gonna mention that a little bit later on. The Oversoul was a poem narrative moment from Ralph Waldo Emerson, yes. What else? Thoreau's mom made a lot of sandwiches for him in that cabin. We're going to get to that too, Reese. But we do know from that, we know that Thoreau lived in a cabin, allegedly by himself. Supported by women, yes. Okay, anything else important that we should enter into the record? Maybe we should just pack it on up. No, we have things to say. But is there anything else important that we need to share about Emerson, Thoreau, as people or their work? They're Unitarians, and they were disobedient, absolutely, and wrote disobedience, yes. Dope. Okay, good. All right, so we know things. We're a well-educated crowd here. This is what happens in a university town. All right, so here's an overview for the 2 or 17 people who are like, oh no. Emerson was a Unitarian minister who left his congregational ministry allegedly over rituals, specifically serving communion. And he became the founder of the Transcendentalist movement, not by himself, but he was the loudest voice, and it was his house that they met at. He believed that a person's unique thoughts and worldview could be unduly influenced by interpersonal interactions, and that should be avoided. From him, we modern Unitarian Universalists have an affirmation of a person's direct link to God, or what some of us might call ultimate reality. We also have a healthy skepticism of religious authority, a dislike of tradition as a guidepost for modern religious practice. We can say we get all of that and more from Emerson. What most people know about Henry David Thoreau is from his seminal work, Walden, written during his 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days spent living in solitude at Walden Pond, a book which is still in use to torture young people to this day. Thoreau was Emerson's protege. He was jailed for refusing to pay taxes on the basis of moral objection to slavery in the Mexican-American War. We can credit his legacy with our modern Unitarian Universalist passion for social justice stances and a love of the natural world, and more. Both men were known for making strong statements about the importance of the individual that prefigure our right to conscience and the inherent worth and dignity of the individual. Many years ago, I had the good fortune of completing my ministerial internship under the guidance of the Reverend Manish Mishra-Marzetti. I don't know if, I think some people know that, but that's not private information. I was Manish's intern a long, long time ago. This was at the First Parish in Lincoln, Massachusetts. Lincoln, Massachusetts is next door to Concord, Massachusetts. That corner of the world is chock full of people who know a lot about Emerson and Thoreau, their contemporaries, the zeitgeist. As a divinity school student and an intern, I benefited greatly from that proximity, and I heard a lot of behind-the-scenes stories that people knew about Emerson and Thoreau. Some of those stories were published and a little bit more canon. Others were overheard from what someone's grandfather had overheard from their grandfather. And surely some of those stories were apocryphal, but it really served to humanize Emerson and Thoreau. And by that, I mean it really complicated their legacy. During my internship experience, I got to meet a woman who had just published a book called Black Walden. Her name was Dr. Elise Lemire. She is a professor at Purchase College, SUNY, and her parents were members of the congregation that I was serving. She had been raised in that congregation. If you are looking for a more complete picture of the world of the Transcendentalists, I recommend this book, Black Walden. What Dr. Lemire found was that the woods of Walden were already occupied by formerly enslaved people before Thoreau's experiment in living in solitude. Other scholarship, and Reese, has made it clear that Thoreau regularly had dinner with his mother and sister, who also did his laundry. Now, I want to be clear that I personally have a lot of love and respect for Emerson and Thoreau, both as people and for their work. But the image of either of them living completely alone or being paragons of solitude is unfounded. Unitarian Universalism, and indeed American culture, owes a lot to both of these men. But the way that we contextualize them and their work needs to change to fit a more expansive, more accurate understanding of their context. We owe them a lot, including, I think, an honest reading. Not only do most of us have the wrong idea of what they were up to, which changes how we understand their work, a lot has happened in our world, in our religious movement, and in the theologies and the philosophies that inform Unitarian Universalism since that time. When our Unitarian Universalism is informed exclusively by a narrow reading of the works of our founders, we fall into the very same mistakes that they spoke out against. It was, after all, Thoreau who said, "Even virtue is no longer such if it be stagnant. A man's life should be constantly as fresh as this river. It should be the same channel, but a new water every instant." That applies to how we hold the work and legacy of these two very important men from our history. Over the 120-ish years since their time, we have come to understand so much more about the nature of reality, specifically that it is so much more interdependent than previously thought. At the time of the Transcendentalists, the natural sciences were dominated by Newtonian physics. Matter was thought to be building blocks, and there was a cause and effect relationship between everything. Many contemporaneous theologians, especially the Unitarian ones, were fascinated by this scientific language for understanding the universe, and we can see how these concepts show up in their work. We see it in Emerson's work when he marvels at having no screen or ceiling between himself and the oversoul. We see it also when he talks about foreign influences on a person, and by that he means an idea, a belief, an affect that is modeled after something learned from another person, thereby clouding what is indigenous to the true self. And for those of you who are lost on how these two things fit together, let me remind you that Newton's first law is that an object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion until another force acts upon the object. Emerson thought a person develops in their own natural, unique way unless another person acted as a force upon that development, thereby knocking them off course or stopping their development altogether. Now, Newtonian physics is still in use today, but it is no longer the dominant or only method of understanding the nature of reality. And I'll be very honest and upfront with you here. I don't want to shock you, but I'll tell you that I do not have a super firm grasp of quantum physics. I know, today is just a shocking Sunday. When I was in divinity school and we got to this part of how science has influenced theology, they literally showed us a cartoon called Dr. Quantum. It was made for children. We watched it, and most of us, myself included, went, "Oh, wait, what?" So I'm not an expert in this area, or honestly, Newtonian physics for that matter. There it is. But I'll tell you what I know and how these work together. Quantum physics conceptualizes matter smaller than atoms. In quantum mechanics, matter is understood to be relational and dynamic, meaning that one particle is doing impacts what other particles do and how they behave, which in turn impacts other particles. Atoms and subatomic particles aren't seen as building blocks that come together in specific predictable ways to have specific certain outcomes. Rather, matter behaves in predictable ways in quantum physics, but there are variances based on a vast number of influences, which in turn have a vast number of influences upon a vast amount of other matter. Plus, matter can be in two places at once. Pretty cool. Transcendentalism was deeply influenced by Newtonian physics, and similarly, modern theologies and philosophies are influenced by quantum mechanics. The modern theology that has probably been the most impacted by quantum physics is called process theology. We also, in good UU fashion, count this as ours. This is something that we qualify as a Unitarian theology, founded on the works of Alfred Whitehead and furthered by Henry Wyman and Charles Hartshorne. Now, again, there will not be a test. I'm just telling you that in case you're interested. You probably want to look up Charles Hartshorne the most, or Cobb and Griffin. Rather than understanding God, or whatever we might call ultimate reality, as a singular, immutable object that has a cause and effect relationship with humanity, the Newtonian view, process theology understands this to be a relationship of co-creation, the quantum. One of the things that makes process theology a favorite in UU circles is that it is compatible with both a theist and an atheist understanding of the universe. In process theology, humans co-create reality by giving it meaning. And that phrase works for people who consider God to be a part of that reality and those who do not. It also works for those who don't know if there's a God, and those who do not want to spend a half an hour defining God and reality. Whatever our stance on those questions, the idea that reality only has meaning within the context of humanity has resonance. Maybe there is a reality that has meaning without humanity, but humanity would not be there for that reality to matter. Therefore, its meaning has no value to humanity. And I realize that that is teleological, but this is a lot of complex thought to condense down. It's also not the main point that I'm hoping to make today. What I find to be really useful about process theology influenced by quantum mechanics is the idea that we co-create reality. And I think that that applies very neatly to congregational life. Perhaps where congregations get it wrong is taking a Newtonian idea that we are separate entities and that we have a clear-cut cause and effect relationship on each other in which the majority of the congregation impacts the individual within the context of the congregation. In this model, an individual expects aspects of congregational life to influence them, and the congregation hopes to pass on an ethos and a culture. This makes the congregation the holder of power and knowledge and right, and the individual as the recipient of that power and knowledge and the hopes of being brought into the rightness. That might not be the model that we want to move forward in the 21st century. It's a perfectly reasonable way of understanding congregational life, but I think that we can gain a lot from updating our understanding of congregational life to include some of these concepts from process theology. I propose that we do not now, nor have we ever, had a one-way street in which an individual receives information from the rest of the congregation, and that's it, and there's no impact the other way. The congregation is made up of individuals, and if we understand these individuals in a Newtonian way, then they are bumping around without having a lot of influence on each other until there is a critical mass that generates gravity, right? In a post-Newtonian understanding, this is not the case. They are sharing with each other in ways that are subtle, yet profound, co-creating each other and co-creating the congregation. Listen, I may not understand a lot about quantum mechanics, but I can tell you this much. Churches are made up of people. Do you remember? Yes. And people are incredibly complex. Our relationships are incredibly complex. We learn from and we impact each other in ways that we are just barely beginning to understand, both scientifically and socially scientifically. I have 3 degrees in the social sciences, don't worry. Both in a physical science way and in a social science way, we're just beginning to understand how we impact each other, how we learn from each other, how we co-create each other. And there is no place that is more perfectly positioned for people to impact each other's growth and development than Unitarian Universalist congregations, perhaps much to Emerson's chagrin. We are not here out of obligation to a set of shared beliefs. We're here for each other. We're explicitly here for each other. We're here for the experiment and what it means to be human, and we're making that experiment up as we go along. I think a lot of congregations get it wrong by having this idea that welcoming people means helping them fit in and show you where things are and teach you how to act. I want to encourage us instead to think about welcoming people as the process of becoming something new together with them as equals. That process of co-creation. The co-creative process doesn't result in something tangible like a rocking chair. It's the kind of co-creative process that ends up with something that we can't totally imagine because it hasn't existed before and we are incapable of imagining it on our own. We know something about it from our longing and from occasional glimpses. But we, humans, have never achieved it before, and that is the beloved community. Process theology offers an apt lens into the concept of the beloved community. I think that's a term that gets thrown around a lot in UU congregations that could do with some solid definition. The beloved community is the idea of a place, a community, a world, a group of people that is driven by our highest values and aspirations, a place that is free from oppression and full of love. It is a place that we get closer to all the time, but it is always just around the corner. It's maybe not something that we can actually achieve. It's not. It's not something that we can actually achieve. But the hope of creating this beloved community compels us to do better, to try harder, to make the world a better place. Here's why process theology is such an important tool for building the beloved community. By definition, we can't build beloved community alone. The beloved community is a place for everyone that is free from oppression. And we need everyone in on this venture, co-creating beloved community together. The ways that work is done are both subtle and profound. We can't build a beloved community that is welcoming until different people get involved. That's the whole point. When different people get involved, it highlights areas where our community needs to grow. We work together to do that growth, and then we become something that is more complex than what we knew before, and then we start the process over again. We are the subatomic particles that interact relationally and dynamically to co-create something more than what was there before. And we're literally made of subatomic particles engaged in that process at the quantum level. As this congregation's acting coordinator of the membership journey, I want to cast a vision of membership for us that builds on these ideas. When someone comes through our doors for the first time, physically or virtually, I want us to engage in the process of co-creating the congregation with that person. I want us to greet them with a sense of curiosity and excitement. They are a gift to this congregation, and they are bringing skills, perspectives, ideas, and hopes with them. They're not here to receive those things. They're here with them. And those are gifts that we need in order to keep doing our work of expanding and co-creating something more than we can do on our own. It is a project that has no endpoint because the scope changes every time someone new is added. That is what I want for us. I want us to reframe welcome as becoming, which is super abstract, so I'm not going to change all the things that are printed up. But when I say welcome, I want you to know that what I mean is becoming something more different together. I want us to never be satisfied that we have somehow solved the riddle of congregational life. Let us instead anticipate and embrace the challenge of welcoming new people who are not like us, but help us become us in ways that we could not have known without them. Amen.
So we are going to do hymn number 402 in the great hymnal. You may rise in body or spirit. I'm going to ask you to take a look at it, and then if you're comfortable, put it back down, because I need you to have your arms free. We're going to do a little hand motion. It's a very simple hymn. You can just kind of wing it, follow along with me. We're going to co-create. So our hand motions it's all hinging from the elbow. So we're going to do from you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. Okay? Great. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Close with words from Barbara Peskin. Because of those who came before, we are. In spite of their failings, we believe. Because of and in spite of the horizons of their vision, we too dream. Let us go remembering to praise, to live in the moment, to love mightily, to bow to the mystery. Beloveds, I send you out now into a hurting world as agents of love and hope. Until we meet again, may you be kept safe and whole. May you find new depths of your soul because of the depth you find in another's. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.